Listing an IPO is often about timing, and oil and gas player Ocean Vantage is choosing to list in the middle of both a pandemic and an oil slump. But the company seems to think that its asset-light strategy will help it weather the storm. We talked to Executive Director Stephen Yao Kata about expanding in uncertain times and why he feels the company will keep growing. The interesting thing about IPOs is that IPOs are all about timing. Stephen, you should agree with me, right? And you've chosen to list now, at this time. Do you think that it is the right time to list? Because while I agree that retailers are back in the market in full force, you see them definitely in the volumes. It's not for oil and gas. Rubber gloves is something else, but it's not for oil and gas. Do you think your timing is right by choosing now to actually list?
We think that the timing is definitely correct for our growth path. I mean, there's never really a good time or bad time per se, in my opinion. We think that based on our current market size, the perfect time is right now when you are in the middle of a crisis, because we are here to grow. The main function, the main target for the company is to grow leaps and bounds as much as we can.
Okay.
And to change to leapfrog ourselves from a small, medium enterprise or companies to a bigger corporate in the future.
Okay.
So at some point you have to take that leap of faith. And I always believe that the crisis for someone is always an opportunity for another. And it is during this kind of difficult time, when you come into the market strong, with a lot of cash behind you, you can do a lot of expansion. You can do a lot of work that will potentially put you in a very favorable spot when the upswing comes.
Guidance from everybody. It's not just the big boys, the small boys, it's everybody is really murky, especially when it comes to oil and gas. At the moment, it's not just the cost, it is the situation, whether you can even get people out there. There's a lot of layers. So are you still enthusiastic, or are you realistic and you see that the year is going to be slower?
For us, our strategy has always been, because we are small, we are nimble, and then we are able to react to market requirement better.
Yeah.
And so with that kind of strategy, we are able to capture more market share as we grow. So we are not talking about very big player, like they have very limited area that they can grow, and then with the the downturn, the shrinkage happen. What are they going to do? But for us, there's so many things to explore. I mean, we are in the upstream sector. There's so many things that we haven't done yet. In the downstream sector, we are a Sarawak player, but we have not done anything on the downstream in Sarawak, not so much. So there's so many areas that we can expand. If you look at the company alone, the company can focus with the skill set that we have right now. The company can look at so many sectors that we can expand. So we don't really see that as a problem for us, because we are still relatively small. Again, like I said earlier. So for us to grow, it's not so difficult because the market share is still there.
When you say you're resilient, what actually is behind Ocean Vantage's resilience? Because you did talk a lot about how your strategy is asset light, which is very interesting in ONG, where capex, capex is traditionally very heavy. So can you explain, what do you mean by an asset light strategy?
First of all, we are not shy or we are fear of owning asset. But what we're saying is that owning asset at the right time in the strategic manner, when you respond to the client, to the market requirement. You don't go ahead to the market, get ahead of the market, as in that you're going on the asset, then after that you go and understand what the market is, and then after that you end up having an asset who doesn't really respond to what the market requirement.
Understood.
That's where we don't want to be. We want to be having assets that can respond to the market requirement in a very short time and can reap benefits in a very short time. That's what we mean by asset-light strategy.
But what assets are you looking at the moment to maybe add to Ocean Vantage in the future?
Yeah, most of the assets we're looking at right now is more in the downstream side that we think that we're going to expand. Like I said earlier, we're going to have like more than 40% of our IPO proceeds to go into downstream expansion.
Right.
So there's a quite strong petrochemical activities coming out in Sarawak, in Bintulu. We're looking at the assets, like for example, they can perform civil works in Bintulu, assets that can perform mechanical piping works in Bintulu, such as scaffolding, welding machine, mainly to explain whatever the machine that we already have.
The focus seems to be on like Sarawak and Bintulu. That's where the action is. Is that the focus you're going to have for like the next year? But you did also sort of mention you want to go overseas, but is that all very much in the future?
Yeah, I mean, as a Sarawak player, as a pure Sarawak oil and gas player, we're going to lease on Sarawak Day on 22nd of July. That's going to help us with our identity. And with the Sarawak identity that we have, we intend to participate a lot more in the downstream side in Sarawak. And of course, I'm not ruling out that the potential more upstream participation in Sarawak. And we're still actively supporting works in the West Malaysia and also overseas, like I mentioned earlier. You know, we have people currently in Singapore and also in Suriname, and also we have a crew working in offshore West Malaysia right now, and also offshore Sabah. So we are a very well diversified Sarawak player. To be honest with you, we have not capitalized on our Sarawak identity for the entire duration up until now.
Okay.
And we think that we're going to try to use that identity going forward to tell the market that we are a strong Sarawak player and we are here, that we are able to service the market.